What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're gonna answer the age-old question: is 4-cores still good enough to game in late 2021 going in 2022? Specifically, the soon-to-be 11 years old i5 2500K. But before that, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe down below, and thank you for watching. Now, before I begin with this video, I'd like to ask everyone for a small favor. Please go ahead and hit the like button down below. It really helps to grow the channel, and I appreciate it very much. Also, if you're new here, do consider subscribing, as I have tons of videos on my channel, and hit the bell notification. That way you can stay tuned on my latest videos. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty then, so let's begin. As you've seen by the title, I'm reviewing this legendary, soon-to-be 11 years old Intel i5 2500K and its performance in late 2021 going into 2022. We're going to find out in this video, finally, once and for all, the age-old question: is 4-cores still good enough in gaming? So, first I'm going to go over all the parts and this build here, then take a closer look inside of my settings and little tweaks that I've done to get the best possible results. Very important part of the video, because I've done some research and a lot of people seem to get different kind of results with this old platform, pretty much bashing it how no longer it's relevant and you can't game a lot of the games, it's just unplayable, which is not true, and I'm gonna go over that as well. Then we're gonna do some few little benchmarks and then some gaming benchmarks. Alright, so let's begin with this build. First thing is first, here is the Intel i5 2500K, which came out back in the first quarter, January of 2011, and it features 4 cores, 4 threads, and 32 nanometer technology. That's right, 32 nanometers, and it's still going strong. Base frequency 3.3 gigahertz, max turbo frequency 3.7 gigahertz, 6 megs cache, and 95 watt TDP. I have it paired with a really good motherboard, and that's also the key to a good performance, which is a Gigabyte GA Z77X UD5H. Now, this is a 3rd gen motherboard, has a lot of features, and it's really good. Even though it's 3rd gen, it still works with 2nd generation processors. Okay, next I have a pretty nice CPU cooler here, which is air cooler, and I was able to get fantastic results. It is a Zalman 9900 Max with a nice red LED fan, as well as 2 sticks of EVGA 8 gigabytes each DDR3 RAM. These are 2400 megahertz RAM sticks. And key, very important key to get your system running really good, especially the older ones, you want to have these high memory frequency RAM sticks. I like to use these specific ones for a lot of my older gaming reviews, because you get a lot of performance, and I do get some comments saying, oh, how do you get these crazy numbers? Well, that's one of the reasons, but I'll get into that in just a little while. Also, I have a pretty nice, decent power supply here, semi-modular EVGA Nex 750 watt power supply here. It's an 80 bronze rated. Pretty good, has all the connections. Now for the graphics card, I have a Zotac GTX 1070 Amp Edition. This is the big boy here that requires 2 8-pins. Overclocks really nice. Get a lot of juice onto this thing. You'll see that also as we get into some gaming benchmarks. Now for the case, I have found this really old one laying around for quite some time, for a couple of years now. It's a Cooler Master CM590. This is one of the first editions. It's a pretty nice size case, not the best looking. So what I've been doing now in the last couple of years with some of these older cases, because they are solid and they look pretty good, I like to take out the front cage, the hard drive cage, which is about like 6 slots in there. I just pretty much take out the whole cage and give that nice open look to get the airflow. Plus, for a system like this, since I'm testing it and I want it to look, you know, as modern as possible, I don't really care about all those cages to load up a system like that with 6 hard drives. What I have here actually is one 240 gigabyte SSD drive, an additional 2.5 inch 250 gigabyte hard drive. These are the smaller size ones, and I have it tucked in the back on the other side of this behind the motherboard. There was actually, this case is big enough for them to just fit in the back with some Velcro to give a clean look, but you could also fit full-size hard drives up on top on the right corner there, where your DVD drives would usually go. So you could definitely put quite a few there as well. They have these adapters, 5.25 to 3.25 adapters. You just slide right in, or you could just Velcro one right on the bottom. So don't worry about that. It's really, like I said, very easy to take out these cages with just a flat head and a hammer, and just bang out the rivets, and you got yourself a pretty nice looking case. Look how open this looks. Definitely airflow is not going to be an issue here. As well as I have two Zotac 120 millimeter blue LED fans in the front, and one 120 millimeter LED fan in the back for the exhaust, and two more 120 millimeter fans up on top, non-LED. So we have total of what is that? 5 fans plus a pretty nice cooler. So there's plenty of air here. Airflow should not be an issue. That's also one of the main reasons I get some good performance. You get some good cooling, some good airflow, and stuff like that. So now let's take a closer look inside. I'm gonna remove the the graphics card, and kind of get a closer look and explain you what I've done to get maximum results out of this old setup. So stay tuned for that. And here is the first benchmark I want to show you, which is Cinebench R15. As you can see, i5-2500K clocked at 4.7 gigahertz and a really good score, 165 on a single core benchmark here. Pretty impressive. Just to give you an idea, that's about the same as a stock 4790K or a 4690K, or as well as some of the Ryzen processors like the Ryzen 5 2600, pretty close to Ryzen 7 2700, and a whole bunch of other processors that are actually below that, such as i5 6600K. Of course, these are stock ones compared to this overclock 4.7, so it is quite respectively still pretty good on a single core. So let's go to the next benchmark. And now we're going to take a look at the CPUZ. As you can see, I'm at 4.7 gigahertz. Look at that, hit it all the way to 1.45. That's auto volt. Depends on, I guess it depends what you run in the background. Let's just see that. And let's do a couple of benchmark comparisons here. Okay, this is 7th gen i5 7600K. Again, it's stock, but a good comparison to this old 2500K. So what we're gonna get here is pretty much very similar performance. You see, within 1% to the 7th gen i5. So that's pretty good, according to this, and actually even beating out the multi-core slightly. Of course, it is overclocked. Alright, let's take a look go into something further down like a 7700. Yep. And again, the single core is pretty much on par. And let's go up higher to, let's just say, an 8700K. Now within 14%. Let's go to some AMD. Oh, let's take a look at 1190K. That's the top tier for Intel. Wow, look at that. That's a 32% difference. How about one last one here? Ryzen 9 3950X 89. Look at that. So only within 11% overclocked on a single core compared to a Ryzen 9 3950X. Not bad at all. Alright, so that concludes our couple of little mini benchmarks. Now we're going to finally jump into some gaming benchmarks, so stay tuned. Alright, so the first game I'm going to start off with is Hitman 3. Now this is currently running on 1080p, fully maxed out on all ultra settings. Just one option turned off is the motion blur. Now all the games in the rest of this video will be tested in 1080p. I feel that's the best resolution for this combo here, which is the GTX 1070 along with the i5 2500K. So let me go over the specs, all the tuning and all the overclocking that I did for this video here, and this will remain the same for the rest of the test of the games. So the GTX 1070 here, once again, it's the Zotac Amp Edition. This is a big boy, very powerful card still today, and it is slightly overclocked by 125 megahertz on the core and 350 megahertz on the memory clock. Now as you can see, the i5 2500K is running at 4.7 gigahertz and running real nice, as well as the RAM is running at 2133. That's right, 2133, 16 gigabytes of RAM. This second gen processor only goes up to 2133 in the XMP profile. If you had a third gen or fourth gen processor, you could utilize the full potential of the 2400 megahertz. So there it is, and these are the kind of frame rates you could expect. I personally don't see any bottlenecks. We are well off averaging in the 80s here, and again, this is fully maxed out on 1080p, running pretty smooth, no issues. Definitely a good game experience, and as you could see, there is no issues running this game at all. Now of course, for comparisons, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you like to look around on some other videos and see what kind of performance you could get out of a 1070 with a different kind of processor, something more modern, either a Ryzen or Intel, and I think it should be around the same. Should be averaging around 80 FPS or so. So as you can see, there's really no bottleneck here. Really getting really good FPS here. I'm really surprised by this game. This is definitely one of the better performers in the test that I'm running for this video. I really like the stage, one of the better looking ones. Definitely reminds you of Cyberpunk here. Alright, well, that concludes the test for the first game. We'll see what's next in store, so stay tuned for that. Next we have here Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Let's take a look at the settings. Now this game is running very good as well. We are on 1080p full screen, VSync off, and I am on the very high preset. There it is. Check it out. With the screen space reflection off. And this is what you could expect. Pretty good in my opinion here. Again, for this old setup here, you got a 5-year-old graphics card and an 11-year-old processor. Pretty impressive, I would say. Now, I've seen other videos saying you cannot play modern games with 4 cores, especially this one here. There's some stuttering and extreme bottleneck. I don't see it. I'm sorry. But that's why I like to look at overall different tests to get an overall perspective, because not always what you see is accurate. And as you could see, it runs smooth, butter smooth. And again, for references, if you want to see what this game runs with a GTX 1070 on very high preset with a modern processor, I am sure it will be pretty close to this FPS as well. Now sure, yes, there is bottleneck, of course. If I drop like a powerful RTX card, like a 3070, 3080, something like that, you know, yeah, you're gonna get a huge bottleneck on 1080p. But if you have the right components, just enough powered graphics card to go with this processor. Again, this is only 4 cores. And anyone with a 4-core processor is not gonna buy a high-end graphics card, so something like this is definitely reasonable. And you get really good performance. Just squeeze out all the nook and crannies out of your system, and you will get this kind of performance, no problem. You see it here today. The performance is there. And air cooled, of course. Don't forget that. Could go up to 4.8 gigs in some games, but majority of them just goes to like 80, 90 Celsius, and that's no good. But boy, I don't even know where I'm going anymore. Gotta get back. Alright, so that's gonna wrap it up for us here. Let's see what's the next game. Wow, this game looks amazing on 1080p. And now something a bit more harder to run, Cyberpunk 2077. Let's take a look what we have here. Of course, as I mentioned, everything will be on 1080p, full screen. And for the perfect setting with this setup here, I think medium preset will be the best. Here it is. As you can see, we are on medium preset. Now, of course, you could go to high and even ultra, but I want to have just the right FPS to have this game played a bit more enjoyable. So here we are. That's what we're looking at here on medium preset. Like I said, you can go up to high, no problem, but I want to stay close to 60 FPS, which is still pretty tough to achieve on medium settings, even with a powerhouse card like this. At least it was back in the day. But again, it's performing quite well here. Really utilizing the graphics card here a lot, as well as the processor. Something to expect for a high-end game like this. Well, let me go this way, yeah. But you know how this game is. Even on 1080p medium settings, the graphics look amazing. Still very detailed. You can't tell from here, but yeah, this still looks good. So again, as you could see, here it is. There is no bottleneck, and yet again, I'm going to mention it. If you look up the GTX 1070, running this game on 1080p on all the presets, you will find out similar results with modern processors. That's right, everybody. You heard me say it. Will you get more FPS with 1070 if you're running like a Ryzen 5 5600X or something? I don't know. Maybe a couple of more. I don't know. Real nice. This is running real nice here. And yes, you see the temperatures are higher in this game than the previous Assassin's Creed, because we are using a lot more CPU in this. But this processor could handle it, no problem. Alright, that wraps it up. I just got one last game to test, so I'll see you soon. And now for the last game I have here, Resident Evil 8. Definitely not the hardest game to run, but still requires a pretty decent GPU. So let's take a look at the settings here. And what I try to do is really get it up to 8 gigabytes as much as I can, a little bit over, as you could see. So we have 1080p full screen, and everything is pretty much as high as it could be. Actually, I'm gonna go a little bit. Oh, I'll stay at 4 here. We have this mesh quality on max. Obviously, we're not doing ray tracing, so I'm trying to max out as much as I can. You could really max this out on 1080p if you wanted to. Okay, let's see what we got here. Alright. Okay, so you could see, yeah, the picture looks fantastic. Wow, the detail. Look at the hair. Definitely no issue running this game here. No bottleneck. Perfect example here. Look at the processor. We're only about 50% of usage here. Temperatures are really good. And that's the crazy thing about different games. Different games use different parts of the computer, more or less. And the temperatures are different too. What we got here?
Yeah, makes everything by hand, so this stuff keeps piling up.
Yep. That's right. So as I'm wrapping up this video, let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments down below. What do you think? Is it worth getting rid of this old processor or keeping it? As you could see, I show you that really there is no bottleneck, at least with this graphics card. It's a perfect pair.
That book's too scary for you.
Maybe like a RTX 3060 will be good too. I wonder how that performs with this, but should be very similar performance. Again, I see a lot of benchmarks showing that the RTX 3060 destroys the 1070, 1080. That's not true. Again, these are some favorable settings or something, or whatever they do, but in reality, RTX 3060 is somewhere in between 1070 and 1080. Oh, not there.
Almost there, honey. There you go, sweetheart. Don't you worry. I'll be right downstairs.
Alright, everyone.
Daddy won't let those birds
Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.